The soft glow of holiday lights twinkled in the cozy living room. A fire crackled in the hearth, and the scent of pine filled the air. Ellie, an imaginative 8-year-old, sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at her family's elf on the shelf. Mr. Jingles. Ellie's mother smiled indulgently. Remember, he's just a decoration, sweetie. He doesn't really move or spy on us for Santa. Ellie frowned. He does move. I saw him last night, on the stairs. Her mom chuckled. You've been watching too many Christmas movies. Now off to bed. That night, Ellie's parents tucked her in and went to bed, leaving Mr. Jingles on the mantel. But at 2:47 a.m., her mom woke suddenly. A faint creak echoed from downstairs. She dismissed it as the old house settling and drifted back to sleep. The next morning, Ellie ran into the living room gasping. Look, he's on the bookshelf now. Her dad raised an eyebrow. Nice try, Ellie. You moved him. I didn't, Ellie protested. She pointed at the elf. He did it himself. Later, her parents decided Ellie must have snuck out of bed and moved the elf. They played along, putting Mr. Jingles back on the mantel. That night, Ellie's mom found something odd. A small note on the coffee table, written in messy, childlike handwriting. It read, I see you when you're sleeping. She smiled nervously and showed her husband. Ellie's really committed to this elf game. The next day, Ellie insisted she hadn't written the note. Mom, I told you, Mr. Jingles can move and write. Her mom shook her head, brushing it off. But that evening, the elf was found sitting at the dining table, another note propped in front of him. I know what you've done. The parents exchanged uneasy glances. The handwriting didn't match Ellie's. They hid the elf in a drawer, determined to end the prank. At 3:14 a.m., the parents awoke to a loud thump from the living room. Cautiously, they crept downstairs, finding Mr. Jingles sitting on the kitchen counter, staring directly at the drawer where they'd hidden him. All right, the dad said, forcing a laugh. Who's trying to scare who? Ellie's mother shook her head. Maybe we didn't put him in the drawer? We must be imagining things. As they turned to leave, the sound of tiny, pattering footsteps echoed behind them. When they whipped around, the elf was gone. The next morning, they found a new note on the fridge. This one read, You don't believe, but I do. Ellie's parents grew uneasy. They searched the house, locking Mr. Jingles in the attic. Ellie complained, He's mad now. You're going to make him worse. Her mother laughed nervously. Honey, it's just a toy. That night, they were awakened by the sound of sleigh bells jingling faintly. The sound seemed to come from the attic. The mother, clutching a flashlight, went upstairs while the dad stayed with Ellie. The attic was empty, except for Mr. Jingles, now sitting atop an open box of Christmas decorations. His plastic grin seemed wider. Propped in front of him was the last note. I will always be watching. The lights in the attic flickered, and her mother swore she heard faint laughter. She grabbed the elf and locked him outside in the garbage bin. By morning, the elf was gone from the trash, and the family never spoke of him again. On Christmas Eve, Ellie whispered to her mom, Mr. Jingles didn't like being thrown away. Her mom tried to brush it off, but every Christmas after, a faint jingle of bells could be heard, just outside their door.